The events take place in Los Angeles, and the story revolves around an elite group of robbers. The leader and his team are planning to rob a federal bank. On the side of the law, the plot features detectives Jack and Eddie. The gang's leader is Gordon, and his team includes John, two brothers named Jake and Jesse, and a man nicknamed AJ. They arm themselves and put on bulletproof vests, and the gang caused problems with the elevator system using explosives, which distracted the security guards. They broke into the bank and ordered people not to interfere, claiming that they would not harm anyone, while they packed money into bags. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, the two police officers break into an apartment where two Haitian criminals are hiding. They rush to flee in different directions, and Jack catches up with and arrests one of them, while Eddie fails to catch the other, who successfully escapes through a window. A bank employee activated a silent security alert, which was expected. One of the gang members noticed this and forced her to call News Channel 14 and report the robbery. But that was their plan, to attract the attention of journalists. The news channel's helicopter responded immediately and flew to the bank building. The gang had already finished collecting the money, so it was time to leave. Meanwhile, the police had arrived below, all exits were blocked, but the gang did not need doors to get out of there. AJ was on the roof dressed in a security guard's uniform. He waited for the news channel's helicopter and gestured for it to land. The journalists had already come out to film everything when AJ suddenly pulled out a gun and forced them to hand over the helicopter. With all members present, the gang successfully left the building in the sky. Earlier, on the hillside above the stadium, the men had left their cars, landed, changed clothes, destroyed the helicopter, and each drove off in different directions. Once, the group of robbers included another man nicknamed Ghost. He was in prison at the time, but was released early, a year ahead of schedule, so the officer pointed him to the exit. At headquarters, detectives Eddie and Jack were informed of a recent robbery. The gang took more than $2 million. Their style suggests that they were professionals, but Jack thinks that's for the best, as it will be more satisfying to catch them. Since the money also includes marked bills with additional markings, the detectives hoped that this would help catch the gang. Ghost is now free, and he found his prepared stash with a gun near a trash can. He went to the Russian gang, some of whom he met in prison.
That's so fast, my man.
Think about it.
Hold on. Care of business.
Brothers Jake and Jesse were delighted with the loot they had just stolen and counted the money. Gordon ordered that as soon as they found marked bills, they should burn them. Jake has a girlfriend, Lily, whom he proposed to. She had previously been dating another member of the gang, Ghost, but now she has started a new life and accepted Jake's proposal. Each member of the gang celebrated in their own way, while Detective Jack reviewed the surveillance camera footage. About 10,000 people ride these elevators every day, and the videos are unsorted.
Chief,
Most of the buildings in the city are set up this way.
whoever set it up is an idiot.
So it will be difficult to find the right one from the bank elevator. The next day, John was returning home in his vintage car, but a surprise awaited him. Ghost was at his house. He had heard about the recent robbery. Ghost didn't come here for no reason.
I got a deal we need to discuss. Once in a lifetime, John.
He has a large-scale robbery plan that the Russians shared with him. Ghost had already proven his loyalty in 2004 when he didn't crack and turn the gang into the police and went to prison, so he believes that the whole gang is indebted to him. Johnny agreed to talk to Gordon and arrange a meeting. Meanwhile, Gordon visited his sister Naomi, who is currently in a rehabilitation center due to addiction problems. She dreams of seeing her home in the Caribbean again. Her brother promises to fulfill this wish as soon as she is out. The gang members put on fancy suits and spent the evening together, and Johnny told them about Ghost's visit. Usually there is a safe interval of a year between their jobs, but they were interested in their former partner's proposal. Ghost himself could have turned the gang members into the police a long time ago, make a deal, but it seems he didn't. The gang still owed him his share of the money from an old robbery in 2004. Lily brought the gentleman drinks and suddenly Ghost arrived. Lily was surprised to see him, but it seemed that Ghost was not interested in his ex, but in the upcoming job. Ghost sensed the tension in the room. The gang didn't trust him very much, so Gordon decided to continue the conversation on the roof. Ghost revealed the details of the operation. He proposed robbing a cash transport vehicle carrying about $30 million.
He wants to take down an armored truck in 5 days.
Yeah, man, you got the route?
Oh, I got it.
But they had to act quickly and everything had to happen next Tuesday. It is in 5 days. Ghost had the route the vans would take. While in prison, he had saved a Russian man who provided him with reliable informants on the outside. Gordon listened carefully to all the details, but did not give an immediate answer.
5 days. Jake's right. That's a real short fuse.
Ghost left them to think it over.
Thanks for the cigar.
Meanwhile, experts examined the explosives used by the gang to blow up the elevators and found a mining company in Nevada where they had been stolen 2 months ago. Eddie noticed that his partner had been aggressive and tense lately, but that was not surprising. He was divorced from his wife and rarely saw his daughter because of his demanding job. The gang began to analyze the route in detail, and the next day, together with Ghost, watched the convoy's movements. All the money was in the front car. The second car was just an escort. Posing as construction workers, the guys went down into the subway and dug a tunnel under the street where the convoy would pass. Their task was to create space for explosives and, when the cash collection car drove up, blow up the road so that the car would fall into the ground. Meanwhile, detectives were watching Frank, who had previously been convicted of distributing explosive devices, and questioned him about the explosives stolen in Nevada. To detain Frank, Eddie discreetly punctured his tire and wanted to search the trunk, pretending to be looking for a spare tire. But the man was indignant, saying they did not have a warrant to search the car, and in the end, the detectives got the information out of him. Frank said there was a gang of men planning to use a lot of C4, but he did not know them personally. At night, AJ went to the dealer. He was searched at the entrance. There is no C4 in the city right now because this man, Paul, bought up all the supplies.
So let me see your Category 1 permit.
Permit.
AJ put a wad of cash on the table.
See, we take your money, and you don't get shit.
It didn't work, and they attacked the gang member. Alone against three, he easily prevailed in the fight, and suddenly, his gang came to help.
I told you guys to wait in the car.
Frank told the police everything he knew and gave them the location of the people who were interested in buying the explosive devices. So the detectives, with backup, prepared to storm the building. Eddie and Jack split up in pursuit of the criminals, and as Jack ran through the parking lot, he managed to shoot one of the fugitives in the back. While Jack was looking for him by following the blood trail, the fugitive was behind him, and Eddie saved his partner by eliminating the criminal. In total, 2 people were killed. The Szymanski brothers, members of a Russian gang, but the police are sure that they did not rob the bank, because at the very moment of the robbery, the brothers were receiving American citizenship on the other side of the city. Before the police stormed in, the brothers burned the evidence, but something remained. A map of the Los Angeles underground passages with 3 metro stations marked on it. Meanwhile, the 2 gang brothers were finishing their work underground. They took control of the traffic lights on the surface and were ready to show Gordon everything. Traffic at the intersection turned into chaos, which would be the maneuver that would delay the cash collector's car. In the evening, Gordon and AJ were discussing everything, 3 days left before the operation, when suddenly someone knocked on the door. Naomi arrived unexpectedly. AJ understood everything without words and left the apartment. Gordon is surprised why his sister is here if she was supposed to continue treatment at the rehabilitation center. She asked the staff if she could leave a week early, and they allowed it. Naomi really wants to return home to the Caribbean, where she was truly happy. He doesn't tell his sister the details, and just says he has to work a few more days, so he'll put her up in a hotel for 3 days, even though she wanted to stay at his apartment. Meanwhile, Jack is piecing together all the clues, and in a photo he found at the Russian brother's place, he sees a bracelet belonging to a prisoner named Delonte Rivers. Jack arrives at his partner Eddie's house and spends the night in his car, but at dawn, he greets Eddie's children, and the detectives go to talk privately. Eddie's son has health problems, and a lot of money is now being spent on treatment. The men move on to work matters. Jack recalled a jewelry store robbery in Koreatown several years ago, in 2004. Delonte Rivers is the real name of a former gang member, nicknamed Ghost, and somehow, his prison bracelet ended up in the hands of the Russians. Today is Jack's day off, so he is spending it with his daughter Sunday. They were driving in the car and planning a trip to the museum when Jack suddenly received a call from a colleague who had found Ghost's file. Since he had only recently been released early from prison, he was scheduled to report to the police today. Jack saw Ghost get into a taxi with his own eyes, and the detective followed him without hesitation, even though his daughter already wanted to go to the museum. Jack saw Ghost meet with Gordon and Jesse. What caught the detective's attention was the gesture Jesse made as he said goodbye, which was identical to the one on the Federal Bank surveillance footage. Jack sped after the gang's car to write down the license plate number, searching for a pen and paper in his daughter's backpack, while the girl looked alarmed at her father's driving when suddenly John noticed that they were being followed by a blue sedan. Gordon ordered him to turn right twice to make sure. Jack followed them, and the gang stopped to see who was following them, but when they saw a man with a child in the car, their suspicions were allayed. Motivated, Jack drove straight to the police station with his daughter to find the car's license plate number and Gordon's identity. And now, he is sure that one of the bank robbers was Gordon, with the same height and build. And Jesse's gesture is the same as in the video. Eddie is shocked that Jack has involved his daughter in this, and is skeptical, as Gordon has a clean record and no criminal history. Sunday was exhausted and wanted them to at least go somewhere, but Eddie cheered her up and assured that her father loves her. It's just that his work is his obsession. Meanwhile, there is a problem. When Gordon's sister Naomi came to visit, she took money, including stolen bills from the Federal Reserve. John will replace Gordon in preparing for the operation while he searches for his sister. Gordon drove through the night streets in search of her, while a gang of men put the finishing touches on the tunnel. Gordon did not find Naomi, and he and John talked on the balcony. If something goes wrong during tomorrow's operation, Ghost must not be allowed to escape. Gordon was afraid that he would betray them and tell about the operation in 2004. Suddenly, Ghost himself approached them.
Feels good to be back in action again. It's like old times, huh?
They drank to tomorrow's success. Gordon was asleep when the phone rang in the middle of the night. It was Naomi. She was at the police station and asked her brother to pick her up. He agreed. That same night, detectives Eddie and Jack were also on site. They had been called to the station because of the money situation. Some bills related to the robbery of a federal bank had been found, and a man was sitting in the interrogation room. Jack had no time to play games. He entered the room and, unable to contain his anger, beat the truth out of the suspect. The detained man explained that he had borrowed the money from Naomi, that it wasn't his money, and when Jack heard the surname Cozier, everything became clear to him. The detectives ran a database search on the name Naomi Cozier and found out that Gordon had picked her up 20 minutes ago. The brother and sister were driving in a car. He was angry and wanted her to return to the rehabilitation center. Gordon and Naomi argued on the way. She recalled that she had raised and cared for him throughout his childhood, and he didn't even allow her to stay with him for a few days now. She jumped out of the car on the way and ran away. The detectives reasoned that even if these bills were linked to the robbery, it did not prove Gordon Cozier's guilt. But Jack plans to find Gordon on the bank's elevator footage. Then the puzzle will come together. At dawn, Jake said goodbye to Lily, hoping that everything would go according to plan and that they would see each other in the evening. The gang gathered and they went to the place. Jack and Eddie spent hours reviewing surveillance footage looking for Gordon, but Jack was distracted. Since the Haitians were now trying to sue Jack and hold him accountable for his violent behavior, they took the case seriously. Serious problems arose when the police obtained footage from a surveillance camera in a neighboring building that showed Eddie taking a bribe. That day, he deliberately let the criminal go, and the video clearly showed the bribery, Eddie putting the money in his jacket and injuring himself in the head with the door. Jack couldn't watch this. He was deeply shocked and didn't want to believe it. They had been partners for 6 years. When Jack returned to Eddie's workplace, he didn't tell him what he had just seen, and Eddie had already found Gordon on the video recordings. The partners were getting ready to go see Gordon and question him, but in the car, Jack asked Eddie why he had taken the money. He told him that the police had the video recordings. Eddie desperately explained his actions, saying that his wife had recently been laid off from her job, and the medical bills for his son's treatment were simply unaffordable. Jack was his son's godfather, but as Eddie explained, it would be impossible for the whole family to raise that kind of money so quickly.
I had my back for the last 6 years. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to help you.
The gang was ready to begin. Gordon, AJ, and the brothers were underground. The leader gave the signal to turn off the traffic lights, and Ghost, disguised as a traffic cop, went out to the intersection. John watched the situation from a distance with a sniper rifle. His task was to take out Ghost if things didn't go according to plan, as ordered by the leader. But things were already not going according to plan. The convoy was late. Gordon was nervous, and John was waiting for the signal. The men argued, and Gordon decided to give John the signal to eliminate Ghost. But suddenly the convoy arrived. Ghost stopped them with a gesture, and John gave the signal to let the convoy pass and reported how far left to the destination of the explosion. Suddenly, a cyclist jumped out onto the road right in front of the convoy, and the cars braked. This ruined the gang's entire plan, and the van did not sink into the ground. In the chaos, the employees got out of the vans and started shooting at the criminals. Gordon shouted into the radio that the operation was canceled, but John ran straight to the vans. John knocked out the driver of the rear van with his bare hands and, gathering speed, pushed the first van into the hole left by the explosion on the road. John had problems on the surface. He was being shot at, so he went down with the second van as well. The police reported the robbery of the cash collection vehicle. At that moment, Eddie and Jack were only 2 blocks away. The gang had already packed the bags with money and were walking to the underground tunnels. The police and detectives arrived at the scene. Jack remembered the map they found on the Russians, the explosives, the passages, and the 3 marked subway stations. Everything matched up. Eddie and Jack headed to the nearest one, Pershing Square. The detectives spotted Jesse with a bag, and Jack recognized him. The fugitive ran out of the subway and was slowed down by cars. He ran between them, but the detectives kept up, so Jesse had to leave the bag of money in the bushes along the way. The parkour through the streets continued, and the detectives were breathing down his neck, when suddenly a police car pulled up right in front of Jesse, and there was nowhere to run. He was trapped on both sides. The man saw an opportunity and climbed down the wall, slipping out of the trap. He ran into an office building and moved upstairs. The detectives split up in search of him, and Jesse ran into the cafeteria area and ordered all the cooks to come out. Eddie was very close when Jesse suddenly came face to face with him, and a shot rang out. Jack ran toward the sound and saw his partner lying on the ground. He immediately called for an ambulance on his radio. Eddie begged Jack to take care of his family, and at that moment, Eddie stopped breathing. Meanwhile, Jesse continued to flee and managed to get out onto the outside balcony, but it was on the 6th floor. He jumped from there to the parking lot below, and the police lost him. Ghost called the Russian informant, who was furious, having already seen what had happened on the news. The Russians gave Ghost a plan and a route, and he carried it out with his other partners. Ghost told him to come for the money today. They agreed to meet at the Roosevelt Hotel. Meanwhile, Jack mourned his friend, and suddenly senior police officials came to him. They had already spoken to Eddie's wife. The police would turn a blind eye to the video recording of the bribery. His honor would not be tarnished, and Eddie's family will receive financial assistance. Jack thanked them for their understanding. Meanwhile, the gang gathered in a hotel room. Gordon had prepared a plane for today, but Jesse was not with them. Gordon paid Ghost for the 2004 operation and also gave him some of the money, supposedly for the Russians. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. It was Jesse. He explained that the police were chasing him and he had shot one of them. Gordon was angry with Jesse for shooting, as it was a very serious matter. Ghost saw from the window that the Russians had already arrived. He went into the bathroom and, so that no one could hear, told them the hotel room number. Gordon and John gave the money to a reliable person, Scott, who would take it to the airport, and they returned to the room. They knocked on the bathroom door, but Ghost was no longer there. He had run away and set them up. A shot rang out, and the enraged Russians came for the money. In the frantic shootout, AJ was seriously wounded and couldn't walk, so the gang had to go to the second exit without him. He was supposed to catch up with them, but he died. Jake checked the corridor. There were many enemies, but they eliminated them one by one. The gang ran out of ammunition, but Jake took a shotgun from one of the enemies and came up behind the Russians from the corridor and eliminated their leader. Jake approached AJ, and the whole gang gathered around him with regret to say goodbye, but it was time to go. The gang already understood that it was Ghost who had set the Russians on them, and all the rush was so that they could get ahead of the Russians in implementing this plan. The hotel was now full of police, so the gang split up and agreed to meet at the airport. Jake ran home to pick up his fiancée, Lily, but was in for a shock. She was dead, and the money from the safes was gone. It was all Ghost's doing, and the police arrived at the door, giving the brothers 20 seconds to leave the building. The brothers got their weapons and went out to confront the police, but it was a death trap. Meanwhile, Jack went to Gordon's apartment, looked through his things, and found a parking ticket for the airport. Gordon was heading home, but when he approached the door, it had been broken. He decided not to take any chances and left, even though Jack heard his footsteps. When Gordon went down to the parking lot, he saw Naomi near his car. He put her in the car, and they drove off, with Jack following right behind them. John called back to ask if Gordon was okay and shared his theory. He thinks Ghost's game isn't over yet and that he intends to take all the money. Now all their money is with Scott, and Ghost will probably attack him. Gordon called him to warn, but the line was busy. When Scott got on the plane, Ghost broke in and shot, taking the briefcases with the money. Gordon arrived in time and talked to Ghost.
I should have shot you on the street today.
Nah, you should have shot me 5 years ago on that.
But Jack was nearby and came out to them, revealing his identity as a police officer. 3 guns were at the ready, and Ghost fired first, managing to immobilize both Jack and Gordon. He continued his monologue, saying that the gang had taken his money, his girlfriend, and his freedom. John interrupted the conversation, arriving in time to eliminate Ghost. John noticed the detective and immediately recognized him, having seen him earlier in the car with his daughter. John and Gordon took the money and drove away, while Naomi slept in the back seat. Jack called an ambulance for himself. Did he survive? It is unknown, just as it is unknown what awaited John and Gordon next. But they were the only members of the gang who survived this crazy operation. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Movie Fist channel so you don't miss any more interesting movie plots.